to the next MoSoClub training session today on February 3rd. My name is Todd Tweedy. I'll be your moderator for this session. Your presenter today will be Matthew Willis. Our agenda, based on some feedback we've received from a number of clubs, we're going to split things out for you here. We'll start with a review of the connection end-of-life update, and then we're going to move into a refresher course, basically covering hardware, software, and then how we access reports. We'll jump into section 2. We've got a very interesting video demonstration for you of our desktop application. We'll review some upcoming MoSoClub webinars that are scheduled, and then finally we'll take your questions. Let me turn things over to your presenter, Matthew Willis.
Thanks, everyone, for taking time out of the day today to come to this MoSoClub webinar. Thanks, Todd, for the introduction. As he said, we're going to sort of change things up a little bit during this webinar and go back to things that we've covered during the first 3 webinars back in late November and early December. Meaning we're going to cover some of the key differences between MoSoClub and Connection. So with any software, you can sort of split the functionality between the hardware and the software. One of the big challenges migrating over from Connection was trying to integrate with the hardware. With any native application that's running on your computer, like Connection is, you can interact with that hardware directly. By hardware, I mean your barcode scanner, your cash drawer, your receipt printer. Those would be the 3 most common. The big change in MoSoClub is that we're now accessing all of these things through a web browser. Web browsers are inherently more secure because you're leaving the security of your local computer and going out into the dangerous World Wide Web where there are people who want to do malicious things. So in order to be more secure, web browsers can't communicate with the hardware naturally. If that were the case, then someone could very easily write some code to open up your cash drawer as soon as you walk away from your computer. So the way that we've handled that in MoSoClub is to build a new interface with the hardware. That's the MoSoClub desktop utility. We'll go over that in detail a lot later. So briefly, the other challenge with this software is the changes we've had to make going in the software interface. So I'll go through a few of the main changes that we've undergone in the software. This screen shows you the login screen for MoSoClub, and that's where perhaps the biggest change has happened in the application. When you logged into Connection, because it was running on your computer and the security wasn't as tight, we could get a very secure piece of information called your computer name. It's called the host name. And based on that name, we could get all of your system settings, which location you belong to, whether you're using MoSoPay or authorized.net or something else, how you're billing. That's all tied to what was your computer name. We had to abstract that out in MoSoClub, and that's where you see this workstation ID. So you probably remember when we were first moving you over and first introducing you to MoSoClub and showing you your site, we asked you for a list of your computer names. That was so we could match the settings with those computer names with these new workstation IDs. So if you think about what you do in MoSoClub, there's kind of the what you do and the how you do it. How you do it is all tied to the workstation ID. That's the how of the application. So when you run a point-of-sale transaction, how will that be processed? Is it MoSoPay? Are you using authorized.net? Are we recording those transactions, or is it just laying it aside to not record inventory changes? Those are all tied to the what of the application. So really quickly, those things are all managed the same as they were in Connection. So you won't really have to decide if you want to change these settings coming, or if you need to set anything coming over from Connection. If you gave us the workstation name, then these settings that control the how of the application should all stay the same. So the other part of this login screen is your employee ID, and that stays the same from connection to MoSoClub. So if you use this to log into point of sale or membership management in connection, that's going to be the exact same login and password that you'll use here. The only difference will be your workstation ID. So we'll go ahead and log in. So the username again is sort of the what you're allowed to do. So my username is cxmat. Each username has a security level associated with it that will control what you're allowed to do. And again, all of this is going to stay the same from connection to MoSoClub. So if in connection someone had to have a security level of 6 to add a member, that will be the same in MoSoClub. We'll go to a few more of the. If anyone has any questions during this process, please type them into the chat window. We'll stop periodically throughout this and try and answer any and all of your questions. If we don't get to them in the middle, we'll definitely take time at the end to answer every single question as we go through. Okay, a few more of the differences between connection and MoSoClub. So connection, you are not actually accessing files on your local machine. So for example, if you were going to save a report, you may have noticed that you weren't saving that to your C drive. So you couldn't just open up my computer and find it. You would have to use the download utility. That's all very different in MoSoClub, where if you're generating a report and you save that report, it's now saved directly to your local machine. So if I hit to file here, this will download a basic billing detail report for all of my members straight to my local machine, whereas historically that would have downloaded this file to the connection servers and you would have had to move it over. That has some other implications. In connection, you had the option to scan documents directly into the application. This goes along the same lines as the hardwares. We can't interact directly with that scanner anymore. So one of the smaller differences is if you want to scan an agreement or just any document and upload it and associate that with a member, we've changed this button from scan document to upload document. So now if you click this button, you'll be able to browse anything locally that you've saved and actually upload that to the server and access it from anywhere. So for example, this is the report. I know you won't normally be saving reports to members' profiles, but just so we can. File uploaded successfully, and now this file, and we can actually go and re-download it. You can re-access this from any machine, from anywhere. So it's a pretty cool feature. So again, if anyone has any questions during this, please type them in. Okay, so let's switch gears and go to point of sale. And we'll discuss some of the differences here as well. So point of sale integrates with a lot of hardware, obviously. There's the credit card swiper, a barcode scanner, a receipt printer, a cash drawer. So there's a lot of things that have had to change because it has all of those tendrils tied to other facets of your computer. So if you're printing a receipt, in connection, we could communicate with that receipt printer and tell it, print a receipt that's exactly this long, with these words in exactly this place. In MoSoClub, because we can't communicate with that, we're really relying on your web browser so to print this receipt. So this would be the same process in essence of you just right-clicking any page, any news article, and saying print. That's the same protocol that we're taking here. We've worked around that, and that part of the desktop application will be allowing you to print directly to the printer, just as you did in connection. But that's one example of how we've had to work around the differences between MoSoClub and connection. The things that are the same that you will not have to worry about being different are, for example, the location of all of the point of sale reports and the details of what they're pulling there. Our goal is to make those all the same. And if you've been using the application, you know we've been actively rolling out updates on all of these reports. So if you run these reports and find anything off, we are working on them. Please let us know in support. We can get them updated and fixed as quickly as possible. This is our main focus right now in development, is making sure these reports are accurately reflecting what transactions you're actually performing in point of sale.
Hey, Matt, I have a question from Debbie. To get a receipt when doing a refund, I have to select reprint receipt. Why? Is this going to be fixed?
Hey, Debbie, great question. There's a few system settings that dictate when a receipt is printed. So let me slow down and show you how to get here. So in point of sale, if you navigate to File and System Setup, and then log in if it asks you to, it might not. And you go to, I believe it's Hardware. Yes, Hardware. There's all of these transactions that will dictate whether or not a receipt is going to be printed. So I have this checked for my local setup. Yours might be a little bit different, so that's something to check out and see, if you're actually getting your receipt printed on all payments or all credit card transactions. You can set this up so it won't force a receipt print. If you have it set up like this, then I would encourage you to get in contact with us so we can take a look at those settings. Thanks, Debbie.
Awesome, thank you, Matt. And I have a question from Linda. How do I get the desktop utility up?
Hey, Linda, great question. And this is probably a good segue so I can introduce the desktop utility. So the workaround for all of the hardware woes that we've faced with the conversion is the desktop utility. And our goal is to be releasing this early next week. It's mostly done through all of our testing now. I'll show you how to download that. I don't think this link will be available to you yet, but it will be soon. And we're also going to release some documentation on how to download this as well. So in membership management, if you go to Setup and System Settings, we're going to be adding a link for you to download the installation file for the desktop utility. So any computer that you want to have this functionality on, where it will interact with the receipt printer and the hardware and show you recent visits from any module, you'll have to navigate to here. So it's in this custom tab. Looks like the wording, this link has messed up the wording, but this is the link that you will have. It will say download MoSoClub desktop application. So that'll give you this file, and we'll include in here a Word document or PDF document and all of the step-by-step instructions of what to do once you download this file. But it's a very simple installation for the most part. You just double-click the setup file, and that will install this MoSoClub desktop utility on your computer. You can put a shortcut for it on your desktop if you'd like, just like any other application. And then when you launch it, double-click on it, it will show here in your on your toolbar. So again, we'll give you a lot of documentation on how to install this and where you'll find it. We'll also release a few videos on how to install it. So if you don't want to read the documentation, you can follow along while I install it on my computer and then show you how to use it. We'll be including that in the download file. So once it's installed, really your web browser will do the rest. Once it realizes it's communicating, it will start looking for the desktop application. You can start recording check-ins and watching them populate in the desktop app.
Thanks, Matt. Let's change gears here. I have a question from Carolyn. The credit card number does not print on my receipts when posting a payment, only on a POS transaction. Will that be fixed?
That's a great question, Carolyn. We actually pushed out an update for that last night. We've been hearing about that from everyone. We made it a high priority and we got it fixed in the matter of a couple of days and pushed out. So I've gotten confirmation from a few different clients as well that that's resolved. So if you could check with the facility today that reported that and see if they've done any payments, specifically credit card payments, you'll be able to, I think they'll confirm that this is resolved. Okay, so a little bit more about the desktop application. So I showed you how you can download that, and we'll also include some instructions on even how to get to the download application in our release notes section, which is empty right now for some reason. But we'll include some instructions on that and how to download it. Once you download it, you'll have extensive instructions on how to install it and use it. Really quickly, though, I'll show you a few of the features. So once this is installed and you have it running on your toolbar down here, if you right-click this icon, you'll be able to access the settings portion. This is where we'll actually tell the application that we're using this printer, the Star TSP 100, or whichever printer you would like to print receipts out of. The cash drawer will come pre-configured with all of the most common pop codes. These are really specific to the manufacturer. So I'm fairly confident that this will cover the vast majority, 99% of the cash drawer and receipt printer combinations out there. But if for some reason you install this and it's not working, we're here in support to figure out the correct numbers in here for your model. So once these are configured, point of sale will find those settings and naturally communicate with that. So one way I can show you this in testing is to use what's called OneNote. It's a Microsoft application. It'll just allow me to preview printing. But a cool feature is if you click reprint, if it's communicating with my desktop app, it will show you what the receipt looks like as it prints. So this is how it will print. And that's, it will print out the correct length. We won't have to dictate that specifically for that printer. That will happen automatically. So I recorded a few videos as well. I think this is a good time to show those so you can see some of the functionality that the desktop application offers. So the first video I'm going to show you was recorded in our office where I'll show you that you can check someone in while doing a point of sale transaction. So in this video, we're ringing someone up for an item, and during that transaction, someone's coming up and trying to check in. So as it is now in MoSoClub, you would have to navigate away from point of sale and either have check-in open in another tab and click over to that, or click check-in and leave that point of sale transaction entirely. With the desktop application, we're able to record those check-ins from this module and show you here that that person checked in. So that's what you'll see in this video. Turn my sound on so you can hear it, hopefully. Hey, one sec. Okay, so you can see in that part, we just check someone in the middle of a point of sale transaction. And it might be blurry here. We'll have a closer video. Okay, so that was the transaction completing and a receipt printing automatically at the correct length, so it's not printing that excess paper and costing you a fortune in receipt printer paper. The end of this video will show the functionality of opening the cash drawer with the open drawer button and reprinting a receipt without having to do the extra clicking. Okay, so that was our gym scenario where someone's checking in. And we have all of the fast functionality of not having multiple clicks, as well as the cash drawer opening. I know that's been anxiously awaited. These last 3 videos will be very short. They're just going to show the individual functionality. This is reprinting a receipt without having to do multiple clicks. So you can see the length is basically perfect there. We don't have any extra paper printing off. The signature is even spanning 1 line, which I know has been a bit of a headache having it go 2 lines. Okay, I believe this one will be open drawer. So exciting, we'll be able to have that button work there. There are also a few other locations in the application where that button, the open drawer button, will be reactivated. The last one will be checking someone in with the barcode in point of sale. Or this is membership management. So we can see the recent visit. This also has the option of filtering based on status. So whether someone has a warning, no visit allowed, or valid visit, you can sort of filter to see just certain members. Okay, so that's what the check-in app will look like when you receive that. We're hoping to get that next week. So if there are any questions, again, type them in. I'll give a pause. We'll go answer some right now.
All right, Matt, All right, Matt, we have a question from Monica. Oh, sorry about that technical glitch there. Hope your ears are okay. But Matt, we have a question from Monica. Has the issue with barcode scanners been corrected at the time of check-in? If check-in was running, barcodes were being inputted into documents that were open, where the cursor was in the document.
Okay, so it's a good question, and it actually opens up something that a lot of people don't know about how barcode scanners work with Windows, and there's only so much we can do within the context of Windows to correct that. Windows actually reads a barcode scanner like a keyboard. So when someone scans a barcode, how Windows reads that is, in essence, a long string of numbers or characters followed very quickly by an enter key. So if you have another application open, like for example, if I was working on this presentation and someone scanned in, there's absolutely nothing we can do to prevent Windows from reading that as an application, or sorry, as a keyboard. That's all within Windows and its configuration with the barcode scanner. There's nothing we can do from a web browser to stop that. That being said, we are doing a lot of research on how to change the way that Windows will interact with the barcode scanner. So we haven't given up hope on working around that limitation. And I'm confident in the next 3 to 6 months we'll be able to find some way to stop that from happening. The solution for that is, and I can show you quickly, in MoSoClub, we've been able to programmatically see how many characters are in a barcode and then remove those. So for example, if someone checks in with a barcode 1234, and you can see it very quickly, it will show that number and then remove. And that will happen for any length of number that or digits, characters that it determines is a barcode. So if you're in MoSoClub, I've done everything I can as of now to get rid of that. So if it appears, it will disappear right after a check-in attempt happens. So you'll see it for less than half a second. If you're outside of MoSoClub, then I just can't stop how PowerPoint and Windows are going to interpret that piece of hardware. So thanks for the question.
Thanks, Matt. Let me shift gears here. Sean has a question concerning refunds. We've not been able to issue a refund with someone's checking account. Is there a way that we can now issue banking refunds with MoSoClub?
That's a great question. unfortunately, that will never likely be possible. If someone is getting processed through a batch billing, it's an entirely different process than the real-time point-of-sale transactions. So you likely have a different processor. Even if you use MoSoPay as the merchant for both of those, what happens behind the scenes is very different with batch billing versus a real-time transaction. So regardless of who your processor is, or even regardless of the software, you won't be able to do the checking account refunds through point of sale.
All right, switching gears again, Matt, I've got a question from Alan. Will the check-in app work with a serial port connect membership card scanner that is using the soft wedge utility?
That's a great question. So for those who don't know, the soft wedge utility is a way to use a serial scanner. So it's connected via COM port as a USB device. So we in essence get the same functionality where it'll read it as a keyboard entering and then pressing enter. So the short answer is yes, we will be able to program that to do the same thing. We might have to do some work to get it to send the enter command after it scans, but that is something that we can configure to do. Great questions. Thanks. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the connection end of life that is now 12 days away. On 2/15, we'll have to disable connection access for everyone, which means if you go to log in that day, you'll most likely get an error message saying that your account's been disabled. There's a lot of reasons we have to do this, none of which are ones that we would like to. We're not because we got tired of the connection product and we thought it wasn't performing well. We know that it's a stable, robust application, but the hardware that all of that software is sitting on is no longer PCI compliant. So that means on 2/15, there are likely planned a lot of day zero attacks on Windows Server 2003. So that sounds like a lot of mumbo jumbo, but it means people are preparing for that day to try and attack us because we'll no longer be PCI compliant. So instead of sitting out there and waiting for that to happen and incurring risks, we decided a year ago now to build this application, which is much more secure and much more accessible. So on 2/15, when you don't have access to that, you'll only be able to access that database through your MoSoClub URL. So, and to be clear, because 2/15 is a holiday, we're going to be cutting it off at night on 2/15. So you will have access for the entire day of the 15th. So it's more likely when you come in on the 16th that you will first find that your access is restricted. That being said, if there are any absolute dire emergencies, we will have access internally. So, if something is not working in MoSoClub, which by 2/15 we don't anticipate that will be anything crucial, then we in support and in Motionsoft will be able to access your database through connection and still perform an emergency operation. So we won't be completely dead in the water, but that is a big cutoff date. If anyone has any questions or burning concerns about that date, please ask them. I'm here to answer as much as I can and make that date as easy as possible. I would encourage you to maybe do a mock day next week sometime, so we have at least a week in advance to know if there are going to be any first day showstopper issues. I know that if you've taken the time to come to this webinar, you're likely already far ahead of the game. It's the people who we haven't talked to who need to actually plan this a couple of weeks ahead. But if you can, start getting everyone to use it, absolutely do that right now. Okay. So we also have 2 upcoming webinar dates I'm going to let Todd talk about those and make sure that you guys got all the invitations.
All right, so we have 2 additional webinars scheduled for you. The next session is on February 8th on Wednesday at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And please, if you have suggestions in terms of topics, we really love hearing from you. So please let us know beforehand what topics you would like to cover during the session. These sessions are being recorded. Unfortunately, we can't turn the mics on, but we can answer your questions through the question interface through the control panel. Our second scheduled session will be on the 15th at 2 o'clock as well. So we'll send out that registration link. There's a lot of folks already signed up for next week and the following week's session. But look for that email, and we'll make sure we get you taken care of here through Motionsoft support. And of course, if you have a question, if you need to reach out to support, the email is support@motionsoft.net. Or you can call 1-800-829-4321 and select option 5.
Okay, so we're going to wrap up here with the presentation portion of this and switch over to some questions if there are any. So again, type them in if you have any. Just a little heads up on when the actual planned dates of releasing the desktop app and scheduler are. Things have been going well in testing. I anticipate having them both released, or at least as of now, having planned to release to you by the 9th. So that's next Tuesday, less than a week away. So when that day comes, if you want some help downloading, installing, and configuring that, either shoot an email to support when you have time to sit down on your computer with us, or give us a phone call, and we can remotely connect to your computer and help you get that set up and configured. Again, we'll also have the documentation on how to install it in the download file, so you won't be left out on your own if you can't get a hold of us. I assume we're going to be pretty busy helping people that day, so if you also want to schedule something in advance on that day and get a time down, let us know. Send an email to support. We'll schedule something and make sure that we get a hold of you on the 9th so you can start using that ASAP. Okay, we're going to turn this over to some questions now.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. I've got a question from Alan who's asking about the MoSoClub desktop publish.zip file. When will that link be available?
So that is when we're going to release this on the 9th, and that's our anticipated release date. I don't want to give you guys a product that has a bug, so we still have a couple more days of testing. If we find anything catastrophic, it may be pushed back a day or two while we're resolving that. But as of now, testing has been going well. Thanks for the question.
Hey, Matt, a clarification. I misspoke earlier, and thank you to Carolyn who mentioned that I said the 8th. It's actually the 10th of February on Wednesday. The 10th of February on Wednesday and the 15th, and both times will be at 2 o'clock Eastern. Thanks, Carolyn. I appreciate that. I have another question coming in here from Linda. When will we get the recordings? And I know some folks asked earlier as well too. We'll get this session posted later this afternoon. It takes a little while for the files to get uploaded and all that fun stuff, but we'll send out an email later this afternoon with a link to this recording. And I'll also include a link to the previous recording that we did last week. And if you have any additional requests for support information, we've put together an FAQ document. If that is something you haven't seen, that's something we can send out as well in the email that we'll send with the link to the webinar that's being recorded today. All right, another question from Debbie. Let me take a look. Is it a concern that connections will not be available for comparison of different issues in MoSo? When printing billing reports for MoSo as Excel reports, the titles of these reports do not print as they did in Connections. Please let me know if this is something that will get fixed. I do use the PDF selection, but my accounting department has all the reporting on Excel spreadsheets. Can you let me know when this will be changed?
Thanks for the question, Debbie, and that's a great question. As far as I know we have that fixed. So, by that I mean the report header title. So if for any reason that's still incorrect, it's most likely just a system settings issue. So that the report header should say the gym name and then a brief description of the report. Your gym name is a system setting and set up system settings. So if you navigate there, you'll see the facilities tab has the gym name there. If you're still getting something that you don't like, shoot me an email, shoot an email to support. We'll get it resolved for you. As far as not having connection to compare against, yeah, I share your fear there. You know, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge during the beginning, getting everything migrated over. But again, we're going to have access here, and I know, Debbie, we've been in communication a lot, so if you have any concerns after the switchover about a report, we'll still have access here, so you can give me a call, we'll share the screen and compare them together. You know, I think we'll have no problem doing that until we're comfortable with the new software after the final switchover on the 15th. Thanks for the question.
All right, here we go. Matt, I've got another question for you. This is from Monica. Our facility is having problems when inputting new members with the correct contractual info being automatically set up, meaning we set up the account type billing and payment info, but it's not correct. Any insights when this can be corrected?
That's a good question, and we've been working a lot on the agreement writer module. So I can't speak to your specific issue without knowing exactly the cause behind it, but I can say that I know that we've had issues in the past with selecting the membership type and then getting the correct first bill date. From what I know, that issue is resolved, so this will be correct based on the number of prorate days you have and the number of grace days until the next bill period. There was also an issue with the start date and obligation dates being incorrect, and it might not sound like it, but those were distinct issues from the first bill date being incorrect. But we also pushed out an update that had those. So that should be fixed. It should match up with what you see here in the agreement details button. So if you click this button, you'll see what the obligation date, the start date, and the first bill date should be based on your system settings. If they're not accurate, then it sounds like it would be a newer issue, distinct from our fixing of these three fields here. So let us know in support. Thanks for the question.
All right, Matt, changing gears again, and Gene has a great question. Are there any plans to release a comprehensive manual?
Gene, great question. And it's a big project that we've been working on with our marketing team to make sure it's presentable and thorough for you. Our goal is to get it done before the 15th, before the cutoff, so you have something for your staff, you know, because that's going to be a big transition day. If all goes well, we might be able to get it to you earlier so you can have it before the cutoff, but we will have it out for you by the 15th. And it will be mostly the same as what you see with the connection user guide, with updated images and the user interface as far as MoSoClub is concerned. So if you have the connection user guide, that will cover just about every field that's in MoSoClub because they are the same. But we will have that guide to you before the cutover is planned.
All right, thanks, Matt. All right, I got a question from Randy concerning Agreement Writer. In Agreement Writer, after completing the agreement, I am having issues printing it to get a signature from the member. I'm assuming this is a configuration with my printer issue, but this is something that can be fixed?
Randy, good question. And this is something that I didn't cover when we were going over the differences between the two applications, but it's actually a pretty big difference. And that's how we communicate with the signature pad. So just like all of the other hardware, we had to find a new way to talk to it. The signature pad requires a new piece of software. So that just like our desktop app, there's something else to download if you're using a signature pad. If you haven't installed this yet, get in touch with us in support and we'll walk you through it. But I'll show you quickly, if I can, where that will be sitting. Okay, so apparently we're not going to look at that. But in system settings, there is an installation for that file. If you don't have that installed, call us in support. We'll walk you through it. Thanks for the question.
All right, Carolyn has a follow-up. Did that fix to the start date just get pushed out last night? I think we still have problems with it.
That one was not pushed out last night. It was, I believe, last Thursday. So it sounds like there might still be an issue with that. So I'm going to have to bring it up with our support and development team. We'll follow up and make sure that those existing tickets are actually fixed, or if there's a new issue. Thanks for letting me know. We'll definitely dig into that and keep you updated, Carolyn.
Okay, I've got a question from Bailey for you, Matt. Bailey's question is, when entering a new member and the name is similar or a repeat name, we can't open that similar name to see if it's the same person or not. Is there something we can do to see if, in fact, the individual is the same, or if we have another member with the same name?
I think I know what you're talking about when you're signing up a new member. We'll do a search to try and see if there is a name similar to that one. But you can't see very much detail about this member past what we have here. The workaround or the way around this, I would say, if you're in connection, you'll face the same issue, but you can have membership management and agreement writer open at the same time. So if you come across this issue where you want to know more about this member, just copy or write down your member's member ID, switch over to membership management, and do another search, and so you can see more details about this person. So you can have both of these open at the same time and sort of switch independently between them. There's a couple ways to do that. The easiest way is just to right-click and do open link in new tab. You can really even have multiple instances of membership management. You can open this as many times as you want, really. So that's really the only solution to that, because we can't really pull up a new window to show you more about this member from the agreement writer module. It's really limited to membership management. Thanks for the question.
All right, let me shift gears back to Randy for a second, and it's a configuration question that's linked to Agreement Writer. In Agreement Writer, after completing the agreement, I'm having issues printing it to get the signature from the member. I'm assuming this is a configuration with my printer, but is it something that will be fixed?
That was the question. And Randy, I encourage you to call support and get in touch with us for those system settings. We may have to move over a template from connection to MoSoClub. So if it's something that's not working specifically for you, get in touch with us, because we do have that functionality working in MoSoClub.
Awesome. Thanks, Randy. And sorry, Matt, for duplicating up there for a second. All right, so let me get to a question from Debbie. And Debbie, thank you for all your questions today. Appreciate your feedback and insights. And here is Debbie's question. How soon will we be able to look members up by telephone number? Right now, we can use connection a lot for that purpose.
That's a great question, Debbie, and it's definitely on our roadmap to make this member search a little bit more friendly. We've had an enhancement ticket in for about 2 months now, and just haven't had the bandwidth to get it with all of the other features and bugs that we've been trying to fix. But we are going to change this member search so you can select up here whether you want to search by name, ID, barcode, phone number, address. So you can highlight those those down. Right now, the search field is a bit different from connection. But if you know how to use it, it'll be a little bit easier. So let me give you some pointers. The search field is trying to determine what piece of information you're giving it. So there's some hints to that you can give it. A space in between two words will treat this entire field as first name space last name. So let's see, we're looking for John Smith. A space will tell us that that's John as a first name, Smith as a last name. A comma will sort of hint to the search that you're looking for a last name, comma, first name. So Smith, comma, John, we're looking for last name, first name. You can also look for just pieces of names. So if I wanted to look for John Smith a different way, I could just do Joe SM. I could probably find him with just 2 letters if I was really lazy. Same thing with the last name. You can do SM, JOH, and there he is. So it is a flexible field if you're giving it sort of some hints with spaces and commas. If you don't use any of those things, then it will search all of these fields for whatever you put in here. So no comma, no space, it will search both member name, ID, all of these things for whatever you put here. But again, we have it on our roadmap. I can't promise you when we'll get that done. It sort of depends on how many other issues we face in the next couple weeks and months. But we do have that on our roadmap to be able to search by phone number.
So, I see a lot of names that have been part of these webinars over the last few weeks and months, and I almost think of you guys as part of an advisory council. And one thing I want to throw out to you is a thank you for all the feedback and insights that you've shared with us. Tell me how you want the comprehensive user manual formatted. And what I mean by that is, we're already looking at integrating, kind of the top 10 things that you do with MoSoClub and kind of making that a quick start guide. But are there other things that maybe you want specifically highlighted that's going to help you and your front desk staff or other members utilize MoSoClub and the user guide if you need to reference it? If you have ideas, feedback, suggestions, please pop them into the question interface or send us an email at support@motionsoft.net. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
So I want to thank everyone for taking time out of the day. I know it's been a pretty tough day with our servers having some issues this morning. So thanks again for taking time out and giving us feedback. If there are any other questions, please type them in. We'll make sure we get to every single question that's asked today. Okay, so it doesn't look like there are any other questions. I want to thank everyone again for joining us. As always, your feedback is really invaluable as we go through this process. I hope that you've noticed that the feedback is really changing the way that the application looks and feels. I hope to see you guys in our next webinar. Hopefully we can go over some of how you're using the desktop application there and really fine-tune it to your uses. So thanks again for coming. I hope you guys have a great day.